Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. Was kind of my big picture thoughts from this game, but now I want to get to what I believe is kind of the conversation coming out of this game, and that is very simply this. Is this Nick Saban's best team of all time? Is this in the conversation for the greatest team in the history of college football? And it's funny because, listen, one of the reasons I think you guys listen to this show, I think that at times I'm ahead of stuff, right? I'm not saying I'm always right. Look, I picked Ohio State to win the national championship. I can't sit here and get on my high horse and say I've never missed a prediction. But one thing I do, I watch the games, I think critically, I put myself out there, I say things that are unpopular, and I said after the regular season ended, when Alabama went 10-0 in the SEC regular season, I said that was the single most dominant regular season that Alabama has ever put together. Now, they got to finish it by winning the SEC. They got to finish it by winning the national championship. But that was the single most dominant Alabama team that I have ever seen because, as I said at the time, early in the Nick Saban era, they completely dominated on defense, and the offense really was about the run game, was about physicality, was about keeping the games low scoring. Then as Saban evolved into the second act of his time at Alabama with Lane Kiffin, with Brian Daboll, and then with Steve Sarkisian, the offense got really good, but the defense didn't catch up yet. And so what I said was that this was the year where the offense was as good as it's ever been, and the defense caught up. And that was what I said even before the SEC championship game. So now that it's complete, now that it's finished, now that we are final and Alabama is officially a national champion, I think we got to go and have the conversation. Forget the greatest Nick Saban team in Alabama of all time. Did Alabama just put together the greatest regular season of all time? And it's crazy because I would have never thought that I would say this previously. I look at what LSU did last year, and this is not to tear down what LSU did last year, and in many ways what they did was unbelievable. 15-0. They beat Clemson to win the national championship. They beat Oklahoma in the playoff. They beat Alabama in the regular season. They won at Texas. They beat Auburn. They beat Florida. Unbelievable. Texas A&M. An incredible string of wins and that I thought could never be duplicated. And so when I say what I have to say about Alabama, I don't want to tear down what LSU did last year, but I think you can make a legitimate case that Alabama just put together the best regular season in the history of college football. Here's why. First of all, before we even get to anything that happened in the playoff, 10-0 in an SEC-only regular season. That is indisputable. You can argue that it was a weird year, that it's COVID, that there was weird things going on, that Tennessee isn't good, that whoever. I'm just trying to think of who Alabama played, that LSU was down, that Mississippi State stinks. Well, guess what? They are the only school in the history of football, in the history of SEC, to win 10 regular season games in the SEC. It's never been done before. As a matter of fact, nobody has ever won 10 regular season games in a conference prior to this year. Now, Notre Dame did it too, but Notre Dame, obviously, we'll get to in a minute, lost to Alabama. So that's one. First of all, 10-0 in an SEC regular season. Not only did they go 10-0, they won all of those games by at least 14 points, including a 17-point win over Georgia and a 28-point win over Texas A&M, two teams that will finish in the top 10. Beyond that, they obviously beat Florida in the SEC championship game, and then back-to-back dominant wins in the playoff against Notre Dame and Ohio State. And so when you look at the totality of the season, here are the facts on Alabama. You want to argue they're not the best team, they are the best team. You can argue whatever you want. I'm just going to give you the facts. Here are the facts. First of all, 10-0 regular season. SEC, never been done before. 11 total SEC wins. Never been done before. That includes the SEC championship game with Florida. How about this? They finished the regular season 13-0, which has been done before, but they played 5 teams that are going to finish in the top 5. They beat all of them. They beat 4 teams, that are going to finish in the top 10. I don't know why I said top 5. 4 teams that are going to finish in the top 10. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Georgia, 4 teams that are going to finish in the top 10. They beat them all by 17-plus points. If you include Florida, they beat 5 teams that are going to finish somewhere in the top 12 to top 15. And even Florida might finish in the top 10 when it's all said and done. I don't think they will, but 4 teams in the top 10, they beat all 4 by 17-plus points. On top of that, they had one of the single greatest offenses ever. Not saying it's better than LSU last year, not saying it's better than some other offenses historically, but they finished averaging 48 points per game. They finished second in scoring. You know who finished ahead of them? Kent State, who played 4 games total this season. So essentially, Alabama had the number 1 offense in college football this year, averaging almost 49 points a game. As I said, the defense was as good as it's been in a long time in the SEC, in an SEC-only schedule. They finished, giving up 345 yards of total offense, a dominant effort considering, and as my buddy Cole Kublik tweeted out, this is kind of an incredible stat. After the Georgia game, they only gave up 400 yards once after the Georgia game, which was the final 9 games of the season, which again included wins over Notre Dame, included wins over Ohio State, included some wins over some good football teams. I think when you add all of this, just look at the awards, right? Just look at the awards. Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith. Top wide receiver, Biletnikoff winner, Devontae Smith. I don't know if I said Dante Smith, Devontae Smith. Whatever, you get the point. Doak Walker Award winner, Najee Harris. Davey O'Brien Award winner, which goes to the top quarterback, Mac Jones. How about Remington Award, interior lineman, goes to Landon Dickerson. How about the Joe Moore Award to the top group of offensive linemen, Alabama. And so when you look at all this in totality, I am not going to sit here and argue, fight you if you believe that LSU was better last year or Clemson 2 years ago or whoever, Miami a million years ago, whatever. What I am telling you is I believe that you can absolutely make the argument that Alabama finished with the single greatest regular season in the history of college football. Again, I'm just going to repeat it. I'll let you decide. I'm not going to try to fight you if you disagree. But 13-0, 11-0 in SEC games, 10-0 in SEC regular season games, first team ever to win 10 SEC regular season games, all were by 14 points. They finished averaging 48 points per game. They played 4 teams that are going to finish in the top 10, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Georgia. They beat them all by 17+. How about this? Ohio State's only lost this year, 28 points to Alabama. Texas A&M only lost this year by 28 points to Alabama. I mean, we were talking about dominant, historical, inconceivable stuff that Alabama did this year. Finally, by the way, that's my spiel on Alabama being the greatest team of all time. Really cool.